A journey is always embarked upon because there is a destination which the traveler wants to reach, a point which is desirable, hence the toil of travel. Now I understand why IVF is indeed a journey, one that has a beginning, a long and tumultuous passage to get to that destination, which is having babies. Like all pilgrimages, some have it easier than others. For some, the road is smooth, easy, without any surprises, and the end is quickly reached. While for others like myself, it is a trip up a steep hill, each step more difficult than the last, until finally, maybe, one can reach its summit, a shivering pile of sweat-soaked meat, tired from the gruesome journey just endured. My name is Jummy, and this is my story. I had never lied to myself. Long before I got married, I had run tests to check my fertility. This was because I had learned from my sister's battles to have her own children, and I wanted to quickly know and nip my own in the bud even before taking that bold step at the altar. The test I took showed that I had a low ovarian reserve. This simply meant that the eggs that I was ovulating were either of low quality or that the follicles were even totally empty of eggs, just blank empty sacs where the materials to grow life should have been. I immediately started pushing for treatment, but my doctor tried his very best to allay my fears. He said I was young, I was just 32, and he told me not to worry myself about all that right at that moment. He told me that it was even possible that I would not have any fertility issues and quickly have children, as opposed to what I had already envisioned for myself. He asked that I should not equate myself with my sister's situation, so I raised my chin, took the plunge, and I hoped for the best. Marriage, for better, for worse. Sweet words spoken fervently while looking deep into the eyes of your beloved. If only those words could hold through. I got married, and before I knew it, 7 years had passed with no pregnancy, no missed period, and no baby in sight. This was worse because I had married a very spiritually minded man. Prayers had been said till I lost count. Holy waters had been drunk to the point that I became very sure I was passing holy urine. When I could not take it anymore, I spoke to my husband. We have prayed, but prayers without works is dead. Why not let's do IVF? Thankfully, he agreed, and that was how we started. My eggs would be sucked out of my uterus and fertilized with my husband's sperm. The resultant babies or the embryos would be watched to ensure viability and would then be transferred into my uterus. The doctors told me that there were so many variables, so many things that could possibly go wrong. 1. Everything depended on the number of eggs which they could successfully extract from my ovaries. 2. Fertilization also depended on the quality of the sperms, so even having a large number of eggs could not entirely guarantee having many or indeed any embryos. 3. The womb had to be in tip-top shape. If not, the embryos would not implant properly, thus leading to a failure of all that had previously been done. And so many more things that could possibly go awry. But I was convinced that this was the right way to go, so off we went. I and my husband tied our shoelaces and we embarked on our IVF journey. Almost immediately, tests showed what I had already known: my low ovarian reserve. I was not shocked. I had known all along, so when the doctor suggested that our best chances lay in donor eggs, I did not flinch before doing all I could to convince my husband to go along with that plan. He initially refused, but I was able to sway his mind. So, we kicked off. Guys, I was shocked when it worked. It was the first try and I was already pregnant. I had heard of people who did 4, 5, 6, 7 plus IVF procedures, so I was very happy when mine took on the first try. 2 weeks after the blood test, I went to the hospital for my confirmatory scan. While the scan was going on, I noticed a slight shift in the face of the sonographer. So I asked her what was wrong, but she just placated me and said I should come for a repeat scan in 2 more weeks. I was confused, but I went home, counting the days till the second 2 weeks were up. During the second scan, I was told that I had something known as a blighted ovum. I was pregnant, quite alright, but the sac in which a living, growing embryo should have been was empty. She said that she couldn't see any heartbeats or sign of life. I was devastated. I refused to accept the verdict. I told them that I knew that my God could change all things around to favor me. I knew that He could bring this baby within me back alive and viable. I went against my doctor's wishes. Despite them telling me that keeping the fetal matter in me for too long was dangerous to my health and well-being, I carried that empty sac around for 4 more weeks. 4 weeks during which I went from center to center, being told the same thing, but still refusing to believe that I had a blighted ovum. The center I visited, I left dejected. The last place, by the time I left there, it took me time before I regained my senses and remembered that I had driven my car to the center just hours prior. I had walked a long distance and found myself lost within the area's inner roads. I finally accepted my fate. I went back to my doctors, who prescribed pills to help flush out the fetal matter from my womb. I wept bitterly as the blood and small clots flowed out of my body. I sobbed as one who had just lost her only child, because that was exactly how I felt. My doctors encouraged me to try again. I had 4 embryos left, so after 6 months, we embarked on the second IVF. Once again, I fell pregnant immediately, but this time around I was not happy. Neither was I optimistic. I went around with fear in my heart because I couldn't shake the feeling that what had happened the first time would repeat itself. And repeat itself it did. Another blighted ovum. My mind ran in circles. The blood tests were all coming out positive, but no scan center could find the baby within me. Could it be a form of spiritual attack? Were my village people after me? Was there something sucking out the fetuses from my womb, or what could be the problem? This time around, I left the blighted ovum in for 2 whole months. Even when I began falling sick, running high temperatures and vomiting incessantly, I convinced myself that it was the pregnancy. However, when I could not avoid it anymore, I began treating myself for malaria. Or at least I tried to treat myself until I collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. At the clinic, my doctors informed me that the fetal matter that had refused to use pills to flush had continued to decay within me. It had become a festering infection which had entered my bloodstream and I was quickly becoming septic. If immediate evacuation was not done, I was sure to lose my life. I had no choice. I took the pills, and my doctors had to suction the sac out, following which I was treated for the infection that I had brought upon myself. It was at this point that I joined my husband in his belief that all these were spiritual attacks from our enemies. We prayed, fasted, waged spiritual wars against all who were battling against us. Still, I decided to take a 2-year break from my IVF travails. I was not psychologically in a good place, so I told my husband that I needed the time to get my mind right. I had now been married for 9 years and still no baby. So we decided to change hospitals and seek out a different doctor. My new doctor patiently listened to my tales, and he said that a different approach would be taken in my case. He asked me to undergo something called a hysteroscopy, a procedure where a video of the inside of the uterus would be done to check and see if there was anything affecting the babies in my womb. I readily agreed, because this sounded like a good plan to find out the root of the problem and to weed it out immediately it was found. He also mentioned that it was advisable they also check the quality of my husband's sperm. Now, my husband had always had good quality swimmers, but since it was a new hospital, we understood that it was best they cover all the bases, so we agreed, and the tests were run. The hysteroscopy found fibroids in my womb, and the doctor said that these growths could be the reasons behind the issues I had been having. He said that the fibroids would disturb both implantation of the fetus and its overall growth. I immediately felt tiredness wash all over me at his words. I had done all that I could to get pregnant. I had even gotten pregnant several, but no babies were to be found. All this after 2 IVF procedures with all the stress, all the injections, the diets, the acupuncture, the vaginal scans, everything. I was exhausted. I gave up. I had given it my all, and that was obviously not enough. I walked out of that clinic that day with my mind made up that what will be, will be. My heart was heavy, but I was determined not to keep torturing myself. Still, whenever I saw other women with their babies, a little voice always prompted me to try again. So I reluctantly went for the surgery to remove the fibroids. God, I was so afraid. I felt almost sure that I would pass on that operating table and go either to hell or heaven, because at that point, I was no longer sure of where I was going to. My mind was just overthinking on every step of the surgery. What if they put me to sleep and I did not wake up? What if I experienced all the possible events that Google had been so kind as to list for me when I went searching for common downsides of such a surgery? In all, the thought that I could have a chance at having my own child continued to spur me forward. At last, contrary to my own thoughts, I survived surgery, and I was told to wait 6 months to heal properly before trying to start any process or procedure. While I rested, my husband underwent a sperm DNA fragmentation test. This showed that many of his sperm cells were damaged at the cellular level. So, despite him having sperms that outwardly looked strong, deep down, they were actually seriously damaged. Now, it all began to make sense. The man's sperm is responsible for making the babies, and the defects in my husband's own was probably what had caused the empty sacs of the blighted ovums that I had suffered. The doctor was very professional. He advised us to go for something called IVF and magnetic sperm sorting. Just as we had done with the first two procedures, we used donor eggs. And just like the previous times, I again got pregnant. This time, I refused to have any scan done. I knew that my heart could not take another failure, so I avoided scans for over 2 months. Around the 2-month mark, I began bleeding. My heart fell. I believed that the worst had happened again. I bled so heavily that I slumped and had to be rushed to the hospital. By the time I regained consciousness, I was told that, contrary to my thoughts, I was indeed pregnant. They told me that I was carrying 3 babies, but I refused to believe until the doctor wheeled in the ultrasound machine and showed me my babies on the little monitor screen. I was overjoyed. I spent the next few weeks going from one scan center to the other, looking at my triplets as joy firmly took root in my heart. Today, I stand as a mom of twins and I am overjoyed. Despite having lost one of my babies during childbirth, I look at my son and daughter and I am glad that I took the path that I did. To every woman who is trying to conceive or who is considering IVF, hear my story and learn from it. IVF is a journey. It is a road which can be smooth for some but rough for others. Everything I went through were merely bumps on the road for me. See, I finally reached my destination. Finally got what I so desperately wanted. So do not give up. Do not allow yourself break down. Get in touch with the best doctors who will critically look at your particular situation with the aim to give you the particular solutions that would work for you. Though IVF might not be 100% guaranteed, give yourself the best possible odds for the best possible outcome by going with the best possible doctors to be had. Go for all the advanced medical tests that are available now. Do not waste the years like I did. And remember, my name is Jummy and I am rooting for you and wishing you all the best as you take the first steps on your own journey to motherhood.
Hello everyone, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. It's the reason for this is for you guys to learn from people's stories, their mistakes, their ups and downs, and to empower you to make the right decision. Don't forget, you are not alone in this journey. Infertility is a journey, but it has a destination. Don't lose focus on the destination. The destination is having your babies, so do not lose focus. Most importantly, make sure your mental health is key. I believe today's episode has worked well for you. Learn from it and please share, subscribe, and next week, catch you for another episode. I remain Dr. Global. Thank you.